So one day this past June, my brother Morgan called me with some bad news. My mentor, Peter P1, had passed away. I remember when I got the call, I was home alone with Isaac, and I told him about it, and he understood enough to know that it was an important thing, that an important moment was now happening between us as I processed and as we processed this news. And he sat there, very patiently, with me, on the floor of our living room while I called up some of my close friends, all of whom had also grown up under P1's tutelage and influence and who were witness to his many quirks. As we talked, we found ourselves reminding each other of some of them, like how he used to keep the tags on all of his clothes, which he did purely as a bit, by the way. None of us were surprised that he was gone. He was very old, but we all really took the moment to let the news in. I'm so glad that everybody was around that day, that everybody picked up the phone when I called. It's a little thing to be grateful for, but I am. I love when people pick up when you call. Each of those conversations that I had that morning was so good, felt so necessary and strengthening. We had so much to remember and appreciate about him and what he had done for us. If you like this podcast, or you used to watch my videos on YouTube, or if you just know me personally and you like my personality or work ethic or spirit of volunteerism, you can thank Peter P1. I met him because he founded Wolfboro Community Television, the public access TV station in my hometown, where my friends and I worked throughout high school. He hired us to film town meetings, host civic discussion shows, coordinate live broadcasts of school basketball games. I filmed a church service every Sunday and burned a DVD right there in the booth, and it aired on the station later that day. WCTV didn't mess around. We got stuff done, and done quickly. That is a value that he ingrained in me, that people notice about me all the time, every week. He taught us the core basics of production, and then let us run wild with his equipment, letting us discover more and more and more on our own. We loved to show him the crazy camera setups and homemade special effects that we designed. Under this very loose supervision, both during and after school hours, we created elaborate performance videos for the various bands that we played in, award-winning short films and PSAs, and 22 full episodes of our own, honestly fairly popular sketch comedy show.
Hi, I'm Jory Karen.
And I'm Zach Little.
And this is Righteous TV.
In our top story tonight, it looks as though after several months here at Kingswood, the whooping cough scare is finally over. It all started when an unnamed student was diagnosed with the disease late last year. After several worrisome months, however, Kingswood is now completely clear of any traces of the horrible disease.
That's good. I can rest easy now.
Yeah, we all can. Luckily, after the original diagnosis, no other students came down with the disease, but we here at Righteous TV would like to remind our viewers that whooping cough is always a risk. For more, here's our resident pathologist, Dr. Ryan Lewis, over in the science lab. Ryan?
Thanks, Zach. We're very lucky no one contracted this horrible disease. It's potentially lethal and very hard to detect.
Oh, really? Why is it so hard to detect?
Well, a whooping cough sounds a lot like a regular cough. The difference is very subtle. Listen. Here's the sound of a regular cough. Now here's the sound of a whooping cough.
Whoop!
See? It's almost impossible to tell. Of course I can tell because I'm a professional.
We could tell too, Ryan.
Yeah, it was really obvious.
Well, you say that now, but I told you which one was which.
We spent hours and hours with P1 in those years, filming and editing beside him, driving to film festivals, sharing pizza. I don't really know how I would have gotten through high school without the creative and social outlet that P1 provided under the auspices of that TV station. I've always been a person who needs to structure my relationships around creative activity. Otherwise, it's like I don't know what to do with my hands. Almost all of my best memories from those years take place around cameras or guitars, usually both. And of course, that's still true. Especially in the last 2 years, as my career has reoriented to center around video in the way that it was probably always meant to. I have found a really strong sense of purpose that has guided my work and social life and volunteerism and has garnered me awards and accolades. I was actually just named one of the 10 to watch young professionals on the Seacoast. Thank you very much. For a couple of years there, I was a little directionless. If you go back to the early years of this podcast, you can hear me going through it, trying to figure it out. Eventually I did. And I remember last year, there was this moment where I was setting up my back office at work. It's a room, technically a big closet, where I keep all of my cameras and microphones and synthesizers and green screen and editing bay. The fact that this back office exists at all, that this space was made available to me by a large organization is, I think, proof that the work that I do is valued and appreciated, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the office and what it means. And when I was putting it together, I sent a picture to my friends, and when they saw it, they said, "You rebuilt WCTV." And I looked at it and I thought, oh, right, that is what I did.
Let's do the news. Quiet on the set, everybody.
Oh my god!
Do it again.
In July, I delivered the eulogy at Peter P. Wan's funeral. I'm really grateful to his family for inviting me to do it. I felt sort of like I had to, like if I hadn't been invited, I would have just rushed the stage. So it was good that they asked me. Here's what I had to say.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Zach Little, and Peter P. Wan was the most important mentor of my career and I think life. So, but the funny thing was, there's actually not a lot that I knew about him until recently. He was always very mysterious. I didn't actually know that the J in Peter J.P. Wan stood for Joseph until this morning. So as you're going to hear, in my eulogy, there's some speculation. Peter Johansson P. Wan was born sometime between 100 and 600 years ago. Nobody knows for sure. He was always very mysterious about his age and biographical details, but sometimes he would tell a story that strongly indicated he'd been present during the French and Indian War. Once my friend Jory stole his wallet to try and confirm his date of birth, but all he had in there was a satchel of magic beans and a day pass to Los Alamos that only listed his name as Peter X. We agreed that we would never speak of that again. In any case, whenever he was born, my friends and I found him 20 years ago. He was between the ages of 80 and 580, and our young lives were forever changed. So we were eager, weird, creative kids, and by some lucky twist of fate, we found out about a magical place called Wolfboro Community Television, which happened to be run by an eager, weird, creative guy. As soon as we got there, we never wanted to leave. Lucky for us, Peter John Francis P. Wan had a couple of ideas to help us achieve that. First of all, he hired us. I had a lot of fun jobs growing up in this town, but Wolfboro Community TV was the best one. We would film town meetings and church services and plays and sporting events. When it was boring, you could leave the camera running and do your homework. And, when there was drama, like I remember one particularly juicy country club board of directors meeting, you could sit in the back of P1 and make jokes. Let me point out here that Wolfboro Community TV probably didn't need to be filming all of these meetings and events. I realized later that P1 was just the kind of guy who naturally went above and beyond in the service of his community. He really set an example in that. Our connection with Peter Jeremiah Johnson P1 went beyond that, though. In school, when we learned of the independent study program, we immediately began to design a class for ourselves that would allow us to produce a TV show at WCTV during the school day. Mr. P1 became our teacher as well as our employer, and a program called Righteous TV was born. It ran for 22 episodes over 3 years and ran in reruns on Channel 25 for something like a decade. P1 did that. People would tell me all the time, I'd be in college, they'd be like, your show's still on. So we really felt like we were getting away with something, getting school credit for making a sketch comedy news show. But the truth is, P1 took our raw talent and enthusiasm and he shaped it and refined it. He insisted on us learning the true fundamentals. The 180-degree rule, the rule of thirds. He would give us really bizarre video assignments that I only realized later were designed to instill these concepts in us to make our sense of visual literacy innate. And it worked. I am here today, Ryan Lewis is here today, Terry Stackhouse is here today. We all work in media and production jobs now. I use the 180-degree rule every day, and I think of P1 every single time that I do. But it wasn't all about the fundamentals. He also instilled in us the value of creativity for its own sake. No matter how silly or ill-advised our ideas were, he encouraged us. Hey, Mr. P1, we want to wrap ourselves in trash bags and shoot jelly donuts into each other's faces. Okay, sounds good. Here's a camera. Mr. P1, we want to publicly make fun of the governor. Okay, sounds great. Go ahead. He also had ideas of his own. One year, he and I drove out to this field a bunch of times so that he could film me running across it and then edit it together to show all the seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. I wonder what the neighbors thought. And why did we do it, right? Because he thought it would look cool. That's it. Sometimes that was a good enough reason, and that's a lesson we really took to heart. So by my senior year of high school, I was spending most of my day with Peter P1. I genuinely did not know where my locker was. I kept all of my stuff at the TV station, and by then, he had built in us an undeniable set of skills that, for one thing, made college applications very easy. Send them a DVD of your TV show, they're like, yeah, sure, come on over, right? Did you take any other classes? No, not really? That's okay. We'll have you catch up. In those last years of high school, we entered film festivals all over the state, and P1 would drive us to all of them. So he was employer, teacher, caretaker, chauffeur. He wore a lot of hats. Very weird hats. He had that one that looked like a Rastafari on a hot air balloon. It was always abundantly clear how proud he was of us. And we acted accordingly. We moved boldly with the confidence of that trust. And that's another important thing that I learned from him. How to walk into a room with a camera and act like you belong there, like it was important that you were there, but also like it was not that big a deal. This has been a career and life skill that has given me opportunities and access that I would never have otherwise had. And I owe that entirely to Peter, J. Jonah Jameson, Jodie Foster, P1. When I think about how most people will remember P1, they will conjure the image of a goofy, eccentric guy who was everywhere and always had a camera. And I've recently realized that these days in my life and my career, that's how most people know me too. I grew up to be the same guy. And I feel really good about that. So, P1, I'm gonna look at the puppet. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your guidance, your trust, your example, your friendship. And thank you everybody for listening and for being here today. We've got a clip now. A classic clip from Righteous Television.
I had a dream about Mr. P1 last night. In the dream, I was going back to the church, his church, where the service was held, and where he used to run their video setup every Sunday. Even once he was too old to climb up the stairs to the booth, the guys there told me at his funeral. I went up there to chat with the video guys, and they told me that when P1 would show up to church, they would bring the whole camera rig down to him. Anyway, in the dream, The church was a little bigger, and there were a lot of people there. And they were very welcoming to me, but it was like they knew that I was just dropping in, just visiting this place. And I sort of sensed that he was there before I saw him. Before I saw him, I just wandered around in this space for a while. And then I found myself underneath this platform. And he was up there with his cameras, getting ready to film. And he leaned out over the side of the platform to look down and talk with me. And he wasn't young, but he was the age that he was when I knew him. And he said that he was happy to see me. And I remember we joked around about his video setup. He told me that he wanted better lights. He didn't have good enough lights. And I said, you can't get better lights? Aren't we, isn't this, And he said, yeah, you get what you get. I remember that very clearly. You get what you get. And I asked him if he was still going to be there if I came back to visit. And he said that he would. He would be there. And we said that we loved each other. And then I woke up.